At the time of writing this video, Star Trek Strange New Worlds' third season is in progress, and it was renewed for a fourth before the third had even begun airing. As we've more recently learned, like Discovery and Lower Decks, Strange New Worlds will not make it past the 5-season mark. Even if it did though, it would have to end eventually. When that time comes, how will the series make the bridge between itself and the events of Star Trek the original series? We already know of several characters who will remain on the Enterprise once Kirk becomes captain. These are James Kirk himself, Spock, Uhura, Scotty, Nurse Chapel, and Dr. M'Benga. What about the series' other major characters? It seems that Pike will probably retire from Starfleet rather than get promoted to Admiral, given the events of the episode A Quality of Mercy. At some point, he will begin training cadets and thus get into the accident which leaves him disabled, something he already knows about during the events of Strange New Worlds due to him having witnessed his future upon touching a time crystal during the events of Star Trek Discovery. Sam Kirk, Jim Kirk's older brother, will at some point go to live and work on Deneva. That leaves Una Chin Riley, La'an Noonien Singh, Erica Ortegas, and Pelia. Of course, one way that these characters' absence from the Enterprise in the original series could be explained is them dying. All 4 of these characters are quite popular with fans, making that somewhat unlikely, yet even fan-favorite Star Trek characters have been killed before when the writers apparently felt that their stories were over, notably ones like Captain Kirk, Data, and Trip Tucker. Even if one of the characters listed does die, it will probably be only one and not any more. Definitely not more than 2. Where else might these characters go? They may decide to quit Starfleet and do something else. Una, for example, might become a defense attorney for Federation citizens, inspired to do so by her experience in the episode Ad Astra per Aspera. It would explain why Pike doesn't transfer his captaincy to his second-in-command. In one of the Star Trek TOS novels, Una sustains a permanent injury which necessitates her retirement from Starfleet, upon which she takes up a teaching position at Starfleet Academy. Teaching is something I could definitely see her doing, although given her genetic enhancement and resulting ability to rapidly heal, an injury is not likely to be the reason she leaves the fleet. It's notable that 120 years into the future from the events of Strange New Worlds, Jack Ransom refers to Una as the hottest first officer in Starfleet, whereas if she had ever attained a higher rank, such as Captain or Admiral, he would have referred to her as such. Also, considering the fact that her image is used on Starfleet recruitment posters, it's unlikely that she died on the job, otherwise that wouldn't exactly be very encouraging for Starfleet hopefuls. Ortegas loves being a pilot, so if she weren't in Starfleet anymore for whatever reason, she would probably at least end up flying some other craft. Pelia might decide that being in space isn't for her and go back to teaching at Starfleet Academy. I'm not quite sure about La'an. She might decide to focus on training cadets, either at the Academy or for their first missions in space, similar to what Pike will eventually do. She may even do it with him. All 3 of these characters may end up being transferred to ships who need a pilot, engineer, and chief of security, respectively. It could even be that some of these characters remain on the Enterprise when Kirk takes over and are simply never seen on screen in TOS, though that's less likely. As for the Enterprise itself, its interior looks a bit different in Strange New Worlds than it does in the original series. Most notably, the rooms, including sickbay and personal quarters, seem to be a lot smaller in TOS. We know that in real life this is due to difference in budgets between the 2 series, but there will likely be an in-universe explanation as well. We know that when Pike is in command of the Enterprise, there are around 200 crew aboard, but by the time Kirk takes over, there are more than 400. I think it's most likely that the Enterprise will undergo a refit and that different rooms and segments will be cut down to size in order to make room for more crew to come and live aboard. It seems that even ensigns get personal quarters by then, after all. This is the flagship, not a California class. Strange New Worlds producers have confirmed that the series finale will feature Kirk officially taking command of the Enterprise, and presumably the very beginning of the 5-year mission tradition chronicled in TOS. We know that Sam Kirk and his wife and 3 sons met with Captain Kirk to see him off when this happened, which will probably be directly depicted in the finale. As for what's next, the producers have pitched an idea for a series called Star Trek Year 1, which would cover the first year of Kirk's command. Personally, I have some issues with this idea. First of all, since it only covers 1 year as per the title, the time frame in which it can take place is inherently finite. Star Trek tradition is that 1 season typically equals 1 year in universe, meaning that year 1 would most likely only get 1 season, presumably with the modern standard of 10 episodes. That would effectively make it a mini-series like Short Treks more than anything else. Strange New Worlds, on the other hand, had all the years from 2258 to 2265 to cover, a much wider window. This kind of thing would only be marginally better than a full TOS remake, and could even lead to one if it was successful. I made a whole other video about why I, and many others, don't want that. The producers claim that they want to use year 1 to introduce characters such as Sulu, and establish the relationships between characters which are already underway in TOS. The best time to do that would have been more Strange New Worlds if there was to be any. However, the point of Strange New Worlds is covering the time before TOS, and the point of TOS is the Enterprise's 5-year mission under Kirk in the 2260s, so I believe that mission should solely be contained in TOS. I don't think a whole new series covering only the first 1/5 of that mission is really worth it, even as a response and something of a solution to Strange New Worlds cancellation. The original series was also cancelled, but it still got more episodes than several other Star Trek series have been allowed, as well as 6 movies. With James Kirk being the protagonist of 79 TOS episodes, all but 1 episode of the animated series, and those 6 movies, I think other characters should be granted more screen time. It's the same way I felt about the character Jean-Luc Picard getting his own series after he was the protagonist of 7 seasons of TNG and its 4 movies. Discovery's story is being continued in Starfleet Academy, and I think Lower Decks and Prodigy deserve a similar continuation more than Strange New Worlds, since TOS essentially is Strange New Worlds' continuation. Since Star Trek Legacy as a sequel series to Picard was never picked up, I doubt Year 1 as a sequel to Strange New Worlds would be either. Paramount really seems to be putting a lot of focus into the new Starfleet Academy series right now, and they'll probably keep it there. Besides that, the only other major Star Trek project that's been greenlit is Tawny Newsom's as of yet unnamed live-action comedy series. Furthermore, of all the unfilled gaps in the larger Star Trek timeline, the first year of the TOS era 5-year mission seems to be extremely inconsequential. When Discovery's setting moved from the 23rd to the 32nd century, it did leave behind a narrative opening for the remaining years until TOS that was worth being filled given all that Discovery had left behind. The perceived gap which Year 1 would fill just feels manufactured and not actually there. TOS now has a total of 3 dedicated prequels with Enterprise, Early Discovery, and Strange New Worlds, as well as the Kelvin timeline films covering the same time period in an alternate reality, and I just really don't think it needs another. If there was one, it would be better to set it in the 90-some years between the end of Enterprise and the beginning of Discovery. I'd much rather see any of the 800 years between Picard and later Discovery, or at least maybe more of the time between TOS and TNG. Exploring more of the 23rd century has been fun and interesting, but with Strange New Worlds ending, I think it's time to move on. As always, if Paramount is looking for any original Star Trek series ideas, I'm game. How do you think Star Trek Strange New Worlds will end, and what more would you like to see from Star Trek? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching this video. Be sure to catch up on all of my Star Trek videos and subscribe for more to come. Live long and prosper, and I'll see you next time.